Hello, and welcome back. I'm really glad you're here today. Wherever you are listening from, whatever time it is in your life right now, thank you for choosing to spend this moment with me. Today, I want to talk about something very modern, very human, and very quietly exhausting. I want to talk about focus, or more honestly, the feeling of losing it. Why is it so hard to stay focused today? Not just when we study English, but when we read, when we work, when we listen to someone we care about, when we sit alone with our own thoughts. If you've ever opened a book and felt your mind drift after one page, if you've ever started a task and suddenly found yourself checking your phone without knowing why, if you've ever felt busy all day but unsure what you actually did, you're not broken, you're not lazy, and you're not alone. Let me start with a small moment from my own life. A few weeks ago, I sat down at my desk early in the morning. The room was quiet. The light was soft. I had a cup of coffee beside me, still warm, still steaming. I told myself, I'm going to read for 20 minutes. Just 20. I opened the book. I read the first paragraph, then the second, and then, without thinking, my hand reached for my phone. There was no sound, no notification, no emergency, just a habit. I stopped. I looked at my hand, and I felt something very gentle, but very clear inside me. Tiredness, not physical tiredness, mental tiredness, the kind that comes from too much information, too many tabs open, too many thoughts asking for attention at the same time. I put the phone down, I closed my eyes for a moment, and I asked myself a simple question. When was the last time I did one thing slowly? Maybe you've asked yourself the same question. We live in a world that moves very fast. Messages arrive instantly. Videos play automatically. News never ends. Our brains were not designed for this speed, and yet, every day we ask ourselves to concentrate, to remember, to understand, to learn, including learning English. I often hear students say, Thomas, I can't focus anymore. My mind jumps everywhere. I listen, but I don't remember. When they say this, I don't correct them. I don't give advice immediately. First, I listen, because focus is not just a skill, it's a feeling. Let me tell you another story. One evening, I was sitting on a train. It was crowded, but quiet. People were tired after work. Some were looking at their phones. Some were staring out of the window. Across from me, there was a woman holding a book. She wasn't scrolling. She wasn't switching apps. She was just reading, page after page. I watched her for a while, not in a strange way, just with curiosity. Her face was calm. Her breathing was slow. She looked present. And I realized something. Focus is not about forcing your mind. It's about feeling safe enough to stay with one thought, one sentence, one feeling. Many of us don't feel that safety anymore. Our attention has learned to escape, to jump, to avoid silence. So when we try to focus, it feels uncomfortable. Let's pause gently here and notice some language together. I said, it's hard to stay focused. Repeat after me. Slowly, it's hard to stay focused. Now try this one. My mind keeps wandering. My mind keeps wandering. This is a very human sentence. Not dramatic, not negative, just honest. Now, quietly, in your own space, finish this sentence right now. My mind is thinking about. There's no right answer. When we learn to name our experience, we begin to understand it. I want to share another small moment with you. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I notice my own mind drifting, even though I love teaching, even though I care deeply about my students. And when that happens, I don't judge myself. I say, silently, my attention is tired, not weak, not lazy, tired. There's an important difference. We live in a culture that celebrates productivity, doing more, faster, better. But focus doesn't grow in pressure. Focus grows in permission. Permission to slow down. Permission to do less. Permission to be imperfect. Think about how children focus. When a child is drawing, they can disappear into it, not because they are disciplined, but because they are curious. Curiosity is the root of focus, and stress is its enemy. When you feel stressed about your English, about your work, about your future, your mind tries to protect you by moving away, scrolling, switching, distracting. So instead of asking, how can I force myself to focus? Try asking, what is making my mind feel unsafe right now? This is not a question you answer quickly. It's a question you sit with. Let me tell you about a morning routine I changed. I used to wake up and immediately check my phone. Messages, emails, news. Before my feet touched the floor, my mind was already crowded. One day, I decided to try something different. I left my phone in another room. When I woke up, I sat on the edge of the bed. I noticed the light. I noticed my breath. I noticed how my body felt. Just for 2 minutes, those 2 minutes changed the tone of my day, not because they were productive, but because they were mine. Focus often returns when we reclaim small spaces, not hours, not days, moments. Let's practice a few gentle expressions together. Repeat after me. I'm taking this one step at a time. Again, one step at a time. Now this one, I don't need to rush. I don't need to rush. These sentences are not only English practice, they are reminders. When you listen to this podcast, I don't want you to listen perfectly. I want you to listen honestly. Some days, your attention will drift. That's okay. Bring it back gently, like guiding a tired friend home. I remember a student once told me, I feel guilty when I lose focus. That sentence stayed with me. Guilt makes focus harder. Kindness makes it possible. If you forget what you heard, that's fine. If you miss a sentence, that's fine. Learning is not about control. It's about relationship. Your relationship with your mind, with your time, with your life. Let me share one last story before we slowly close. One afternoon, I was walking through a park. I left my phone in my pocket. No music, no podcast, just walking. At first, my mind was loud, thoughts everywhere. But after a while, something shifted. I noticed the sound of my steps, the movement of leaves, the rhythm of my breathing. For 10 minutes, I was nowhere else. And in those 10 minutes, I felt something rare. Clarity. Not because I solved anything, but because I stopped running. Focus is not something you chase. It's something that arrives when you stop pushing it away. If today feels scattered, let it be scattered. If your attention is fragile, treat it gently. You are not failing at learning. You are learning how to live in a noisy world, and that is not easy. Before we finish, I want you to try one last sentence. Say it softly, out loud, or in your heart. I'm doing my best. Again, I'm doing my best. That sentence is enough for today. And before we truly part, I want to stay with you a little longer in this quiet space we've created together. Sometimes, when an episode ends, the mind immediately jumps to the next thing. Another video, another task, another responsibility. But right now, there is no rush. You are here. You are listening. And that is already an act of focus. I want to speak honestly for a moment. Even as someone who teaches language, who talks about awareness and presence, I still struggle. There are days when I sit down to write and feel restless. Days when every sentence feels heavy. Days when my mind asks for escape instead of expression. On those days, I don't tell myself to be stronger. I tell myself to be slower. I remind myself that focus is not a permanent state. It comes and goes. Like the tide, when it leaves, it is not a failure. It is a signal. A signal that something inside needs rest, or silence, or care. Many people believe focus means tension, holding the mind tightly. But real focus feels different. It feels open, soft, almost relaxed. Think about a time when you were deeply absorbed in something you loved, maybe listening to music, maybe talking with a close friend, maybe watching the rain. In those moments, you weren't trying to focus. You simply were. That is the kind of focus we are slowly returning to, not the forced kind, the natural kind. When you learn English, I don't want it to feel like pressure. I want it to feel like curiosity. Curiosity about words, curiosity about yourself, curiosity about how language shapes your thoughts. Let's notice a few more gentle expressions together. Listen first. My attention comes back when I slow down. Now repeat it slowly. My attention comes back when I slow down. Another one. It's okay to learn at my own pace. Again, at my own pace. These phrases are simple, but they carry permission. Permission to stop comparing. Permission to stop rushing. Permission to stop fighting your own mind. I often say that when we practice English, we are also practicing patience. Patience with mistakes. Patience with silence. Patience with ourselves. And patience is something this world does not train us for. We are trained to react, to respond quickly, to stay alert. But real learning happens when we allow space. Space between sentences, space between thoughts. Space between who we were and who we are becoming. If you feel distracted today, I want you to know something important. Distraction does not mean you don't care. It often means you care too much about too many things at once. So tonight, or today, whenever you are listening to this, choose one small thing. One page, one sentence, one deep breath. Give it your full attention, not as a test, but as a gift. And when your mind wanders, because it will bring it back kindly. No anger, no disappointment, just a quiet return. This is how focus grows, not through force, but through trust. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be to take the next step. And that step does not need to be big. It only needs to be real. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Thank you for listening with an open heart. Let's stay just a little longer in this feeling of gentleness. Sometimes, even after we think we've finished, there is still something inside us that wants to be said. Not loudly, not urgently, just quietly. I want you to imagine this moment as if we are sitting together in the evening. The day has already happened. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to improve it. You're simply here. When life feels unfocused, it's often because we are carrying too much invisible weight. Expectations, unanswered messages, unfinished plans, thoughts about who we should be by now. All of that lives in the background of the mind. So when you sit down to learn, to read, or to listen, your attention is already tired before you begin. I think this is why many people say, I don't have concentration like before. But the truth is, you have the same mind. It's just more crowded. Crowded minds don't need discipline first. They need space. That's why moments like this matter. A slow voice, a steady rhythm, language that doesn't rush you. English doesn't have to be fast to be fluent. Your thoughts don't have to be perfect to be meaningful. Sometimes the most powerful sentence is a quiet one. Listen to this. I'm allowed to slow down. Say it gently. I'm allowed to slow down. Notice how it feels in your body when you say it. Not in your head, in your body. Focus often returns through the body first. Through breathing, through posture, through stillness. That's why walking helps. That's why silence helps. That's why listening helps. Not because they give answers, but because they calm the noise. I've learned that when I stop demanding clarity, clarity often appears on its own. When I stop chasing focus, focus quietly sits beside me. This is true for language. This is true for life. You don't need to master English today. You only need to stay with it. Stay with one sound, one phrase, one feeling, and tomorrow, or the next day, you stay again. That is how something becomes part of you. If you ever feel discouraged, remember this: every time you listen, even passively, something's happening. Your ear is learning rhythm. Your mind is learning trust. Nothing is wasted. So when you turn this off and return to your day, take this calm with you, not as something you must protect perfectly, but as something you can return to, again and again. And even now, as these words continue to reach you, there is nothing you need to hold tightly. You don't need to remember everything I've said. You don't need to repeat every sentence. You don't need to promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. Just notice how it feels to listen without pressure. Many of us learn to focus through fear, deadlines, exams, judgment, the feeling of being left behind. So when that fear disappears, the mind feels confused. It asks, why should I stay? But gentle focus is not built on fear. It's built on meaning. When something feels meaningful, attention follows naturally. That's why I often encourage you to connect English to your real life, your real mornings, your real tiredness, your real thoughts at night. Language becomes alive when it carries your experience. You're not practicing English to sound impressive. You're practicing English to understand yourself and others more clearly. And understanding takes time. Sometimes, focus looks like deep concentration. Other times, it looks like quiet acceptance. Both are valid. If today you listened with half your attention, that's still listening. If your mind wandered and came back, that coming back matters. That return is the practice. In many ways, the focus is not about staying. It's about returning. Returning to the sentence, returning to the breath, returning to yourself. And every return builds strength, not loud strength, but steady strength, the kind that lasts. So wherever you are right now, take one soft breath, no technique, no counting. Just breathe. And as you exhale, allow yourself to release the need to do more. You have done enough for this moment. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening in your own imperfect, human way. Let me leave you with one last thought, spoken slowly, without any urgency. Focus is not something you either have or don't have. It is something that changes with your life. When life is loud, focus becomes quiet. When life is gentle, focus returns more easily. So instead of asking yourself, why can't I focus like before? You might ask, what has my life been asking me to carry lately? That question is softer, and softness often brings honesty. If your days are full, it makes sense that your mind feels full. If your heart is tired, it makes sense that your attention needs rest. Nothing about this is wrong. Sometimes, the most focused thing you can do is stop demanding focus. Sit, listen, allow. Language will still enter you. Understanding will still grow, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly in the background, like roots growing under the ground. You may not see it today, but one day you'll notice that words come more easily, that listening feels less heavy, that silence feels less uncomfortable, and you'll realize that learning never stopped. It was simply happening at a human pace. So when you finish listening to this, don't rush away. Stand up slowly, move gently. Carry this calm into whatever comes next. You don't need to do everything well. You only need to stay kind to your attention. That kindness is the foundation of focus and of growth and of language. And if there is still a little space inside you, I want to speak into that space gently. Sometimes, after we hear something calming, there is a strange feeling that follows. A quiet question, a softness mixed with uncertainty. What do I do now? The answer is simpler than the mind expects. You live. You return to your life as it is not improved. Not fixed, just seen a little more clearly. Focus does not ask you to change your entire routine. It asks you to notice one moment more fully. The taste of water, the sound of a door closing, the way your shoulders feel when you relax them. These small acts of noticing train the same muscle you use to listen, to read, to understand English. Awareness is transferable. When you become present in life, you become present in language. I think many learners believe they must separate English from their real world. Study time here, life over there. But the most natural learning happens when the border disappears, when English becomes the language you use to describe your tiredness, your hopes, your quiet evenings. That's when focus feels less like effort and more like companionship. Something walking beside you, not pushing you forward. If today you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. You don't need to fight your distracted mind. You need to understand it. And understanding always begins with kindness. So tonight, or this morning, or wherever this finds you, speak one honest sentence in English. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Maybe something like, I feel a little tired today, or my mind is very busy, or simply, I'm here. Those sentences are enough. They are real, and real language builds real focus. Thank you for staying with me until now. Thank you for listening in your own rhythm. And as we remain here together for a few more moments, I want to acknowledge something quietly important. The fact that you are still listening tells me something about you. It tells me that even when focus feels difficult, there is a part of you that wants depth, a part of you that wants meaning instead of noise, a part of you that has not given up. That part matters. Often, we think focus means sitting perfectly still, absorbing every word. But sometimes, focus looks like choosing to stay even when the mind is restless, staying with the sound of a voice, staying with a feeling of calm, staying with yourself. That choice is subtle but powerful. I want to share something personal. There were times in my life when I believed I was losing my ability to think clearly. I felt scattered, pulled in many directions. I blamed myself at first. I thought something was wrong with me, but later I realized something gentler. My mind wasn't broken. It was responding to the world it was living in. Too much speed, too much comparison, too little rest. Understanding that changed how I treated myself. Instead of pushing harder, I softened. Instead of demanding focus, I invited it, and slowly, without force, it returned. This is why I speak slowly with you. This is why I repeat ideas in different ways. Not because you are slow, but because your nervous system deserves kindness. Learning happens best when the body feels safe. So if you ever feel frustrated with yourself for losing focus, try changing the question. Not, what's wrong with me, but what do I need right now? That question can change everything. Sometimes the answer is rest. Sometimes it is movement. Sometimes it is silence. And sometimes it is simply hearing a calm voice remind you that you are okay. You don't need to become someone else to focus better. You don't need to fix your personality. You only need to create small moments of gentleness in a demanding world. And each time you do that, your attention learns to trust again. So as we come close to the end of this long, quiet journey, I want you to take one more thing with you.